Hi, I'm Sarah Wolfschlager, also known as Wolfy to some. Super aerialist, if you like.
Super aerialist, yes. So I've done very little pre-research on you, but I want to get like your story from yourself anyway. So just like tell your story leading up to joining the Muse.
Oh, that's a long one.
You don't need to go into like great detail.
Okay, couple sentences here. Let's see. I started dancing early when I was 5, and I just happened to grow up in a circus city in Wisconsin, Baraboo, Wisconsin, where Al Ringling had a permanent circus since the 1850s. Yeah, seriously.
That's so cool.
Yeah, 3 rings. It went down to 1 ring when I joined, and I was about 13. Yeah, and I did a circus show during the summers there. I did the aerial ballet, which was a Spanish web act. That's the canvas rope that has 2 loops at the top of it. You can either put it on your wrist or on a knee or an ankle, and then someone's below you spinning you. And you're basically doing yoga in the air. So
cool.
And we also had a magic show in a hippodrome building, and that was one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So there's your very interesting start.
The beginning.
Your very interesting beginning.
That was the seedling.
Cool.
Yeah,
I did not know that there was like a permanent.
Yeah. There's a museum. It's called Circus World Museum, and there's also a library there, which has some of the first original footage of the circus ever in America. There's old posters and costumes, and it has a wagon restoration program. So any circus wagon that was made in the world that needs to be restored is usually flown to Baraboo, and then they restore it there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then I went to college and I did dance. And
so let's talk about that next.
Okay.
So you had a BFA in dance?
Yes.
Cool. So now the interesting stuff. How was your? It seems like you've performed pretty globally. Yeah, around the world. What was like your first job after college? Jumping into the workforce.
Into the workforce. I mean, I was working before college, and I was working through college in dance companies. And then when I got to New York, I worked for a woman named Noemi LaFrance, who does site-specific work in large production. Anywhere from like 60 performers to a couple thousand performers. And we did something in the Agora. It was called Agora, and it was in the McCarran Park pool. And that's where I met another performer who was a filmmaker at the time, who just happened to have an aerial space. So that's how I got back into doing aerial work again, and that was probably about 9 years ago. Traveling wise, I performed in college as part of a college program in Italy, and then I also performed in China last year, as well as teaching in China, in Shanghai. Yeah.
Cool. So as a freelance performer, it seems it's pretty easy to like jump from one to another.
One genre or one job?
One job to another. Like how long do they usually last, and then in between periods?
It definitely takes a certain kind of person, I think, to be able to live in New York City, period, and to just be able to even just go to school and find a way to survive and have a job. So also, to be someone that's pursuing an art form and to pay your bills, it can be very stressful, yes, and it's hard in between gigs. And I've been here 10, 11 years now, so I have had a lot of trial and error, and I have found ways of breathing through it all so that I can be more content with my day-to-day life, because if you're just living like from gig to gig to gig, it can be very stressful and hard on your psyche, I think. Okay. So to ground, I found yoga was very helpful. I do a lot of yoga.
A lot of yoga.
A lot of yoga.
Cool. So now you're based in New York City?
Yes.
Cool. So how did you join the Muse?
Well, Let's see. I've known Angela since the days of Grounded Aerial. That was a company that she and I met in, and we did a couple shows with them, and then, you know, we did different things, and then she opened the first Muse, and I needed a space in which to teach silks out of. It made sense, so being that we were old friends, I taught out of that space for a while, and then I, you know, did something else, and then she reopened, and it just happened at the right time that I was able to be like, hey, I'd like to teach for you. Would that be great? And she was like, of course, because she's awesome.
Definitely.
Very enthusiastic, yeah.
The transition, because it seems like you've been dancing on the ground and doing aerial like side by side the whole time. How would you describe, like, from a performer standpoint, the differences between the two, like, styles of movement and like choreographing for it?
That's a long question. I mean, that takes a while. I feel like,
sure.
Yeah. Well, they both, you know, they definitely complement each other and feed into each other, and it's interesting to find, like, you know, just from a physical standpoint, how different muscle groups will support you when you're pushing into the floor versus the different muscle groups you need to develop when you're climbing, and it's just, from a physical standpoint, that happens. But I feel very blessed that I have my movement background to draw upon. The dancing, I can take things that I've learned on the ground and try them with that apparatus. For example, one of the easiest bridges was bungee for me, doing bungee dance, because you're still on the ground, but you're kind of in the air, and like you're able to like do leaps, but you can extend them to superhuman, you know, capabilities. And silks is a little bit different, a little bit harder to translate all of the ground movement, but the skills that, you know, you can pick up through dance, you know, pointing your toes, trying to be graceful with the breath. Yes, that definitely helps in the air, for sure.
Okay. It seems like there's sort of been this like resurgence of circus and aerial arts in recent years for a while, for the past decade or so. Do you agree that it's like starting to come back more? That circus is like more prevalent in the world?
Absolutely, it's exploding. Every time I go somewhere, I always, you know, try to Google what aerial programs they have, even if it's just aerial yoga. Just to, you know, even though they may just see aerial yoga in that space, if you go there and you talk with them, before you know it, you find another friend that's a circus person, and they'll connect you with another circus. It is like a big family, and I do think that it's very popular right now. You're totally right about that. It's very accessible.
Alright, so tell us, now's the time, tell us about this performance that's coming up.
Oh.
You're on the side of a building, right? 20 feet? Or
yeah,
20 feet, 20 stories. 22 stories.
220 feet about. Yeah, that's the highest I've ever been. Granted, there's a certain amount of exhilaration and fear that come into play with that.
Well, that's for safety's sake.
Yeah, but it's, you know, I mean, how many people get to have the opportunity in life to really experience the freedom of air and flying? So I feel really blessed, and, you know, I know that there might be points where I might want to toss my cookies, but that's natural. I'm just gonna breathe through it.
Got it.
But yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. Awesome. There's gonna be 10,000 people there.
Do you want to tell them where it is?
Sure.
This will be up before.
It'll be up before then. Oh, okay,
yeah, it should be up.
Yeah, great. It's gonna be in Rochester, New York, as part of their Fringe Festival on, I believe, a big building downtown. I'm not sure if it's a bank building or not. I feel like it is. I'd have to double check that. But if you go to the Fringe Festival's website, it should come up as like the banner is the featured act, and that's happening on Friday night. I think it's 7 p.m. There's a whole narrative involved with the water lord and how he wants to be up on top of this building, and, you know, we want to make it rain but not really rain so that we can still perform. And there's also going to be ground dancers locally that will be incorporated into it. I think there's going to be about 10 dancers from the company Biodance, and the company that I'm working with, all those aerialists are through a company called Grounded Aerial.
Awesome. Great. Sounds like fun. So, final closing question: what, like, general advice do you have for anyone who's like trying to work as a freelance performer in the circus or aerial arts?
Stick with it. Seriously, just gotta push through. I mean, you know, especially in New York. There are many dancers and many aerialists and many circus performers, and you have to just keep doing it and just keep knocking on the doors. Don't take no for an answer. Just keep fighting for your dream and enjoy the process. Don't try to get too stuck in your head about it. Like, really try to find the joy in what you're doing, because that's why you're doing it. So be happy. Try to be happy. Also, take time to rest. Don't feel like you have to do everything. Maybe you can skip that barbecue. I don't know. Just saying. Get a massage.
Yes,
Eat well. Be good to yourself. Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.